Parade! Rest!
Friends, family, honored guests, brothers and sisters in law enforcement, on behalf of the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 103, I would like to thank you for being here today. Please welcome FOP 103 President Dan Verhage to give the invocation.
Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance and your safety to the men and women of law enforcement, not here only in Bay County, but through the United States on this Police Week, nationally recognized. We ask you for your guidance and safety day in and day out as these men and women perform the duties to keep their communities safe. In your name we pray. Amen.
The second week in May is nationally recognized as Police Officers Week, with yesterday the 15th as official Police Officers Memorial Day. It has been this way since 1962 when it was established by Congress. But today I'm going to talk to you about dragons. Now, I know what you're thinking. What do dragons have to do with Police Officers Memorial Day? Well, quite a bit, and I'll explain, but it's going to take a minute. If you've ever been to my cubicle, you'll see that it's very busy. There's lots of things on the walls, items, tchotchkes from different vacations, but there's one particular piece of paper hung up that's been aptly named the Meyer flowchart. You see, most people go from A to B in a straight line because it's the most effective and efficient way of doing things, but not me. I'm more of a over the river and through the woods type of person. My A to B is much longer with a couple rest stops along the way. So I like to read. I probably read about 30 books a month. Sure, 29 of them are from Marvel and DC, but that still counts. The other book is usually a classic that I should have read in college or just something that catches my eye. Now, sure, I could go to the library and check out these books, but what fun is that? Where's the adventure? I like to go to thrift stores and garage sales and search for books, and I've done quite well. My favorite thing to do when I'm done is to put them in those free little libraries that are scattered all throughout town. So I encourage everyone to go find one near you and take advantage of it. Anyway, I found a great book the other day by Jordan B. Peterson called 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. And the book is excellent, and I'll recommend it to anybody. It gets a little wordy at times, and you really got to concentrate to get through it. It's not the author's fault. He's Canadian. It's all that maple syrup. But all 12 rules in the book will help you lead a better life. But I'm going to apply some of those to a career in law enforcement. Take number 9. Assume that the person you're listening to might know something that you don't. After a while in law enforcement, you kind of see it all. And a lot of the times the stories and situations repeat themselves, and we tend to deal with the same people over and over again. Don't get caught in the trap that you know everything. Take the time to really listen to everyone you come in contact with. You might be surprised at what you learn. That also goes with coworkers and family and friends. Number 10, pursue what is meaningful, not what's expedient. Every police officer in America already does this. This job is meaningful. It's important. It's necessary. It isn't the easy way through life, but it does provide a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment. Number 3, make friends with people who want the best for you. Now, law enforcement is a profession that's full of alpha and type A personality types. So unfortunately, when it comes to promotion, it's every man for themselves sometimes. But no matter what your job is, the end goal is to be the best. And your coworkers should want the best for themselves and everything around them. It makes your organization better, stronger, and your job easier. So find a mentor. Don't be a naysayer. You'll be surprised how contagious a positive and supportive attitude can be. I think this is one of my favorite of the 12. Number 2, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. So think about it. With your kids or your family. Most of my day is making sure my kids are bathed, dressed, teeth brushed, medication taken, homework done, rides to and from wrestling, early to bed so they get enough sleep. But on top of that, I had to work 10 hours that day. And sometimes in the middle, I forgot to take my medication pack a lunch, and avoid the donut box on the squad room table. Police officers have to care for several different people on their 12-hour shifts, and sometimes our minds just don't have the bandwidth to really care about ourselves at the end of the day. But we need to. If you want to be happy and live a happy life, take some time for yourself. I feel that I've gotten off track. That's right, I'm supposed to be talking about dragons. So while reading this book, Peterson used many different references and cited many different books and papers, and one of them is actually a children's book by Jack Kent called There's No Such Thing as a Dragon. The story starts out with Billy Bixby waking up to find a tiny dragon on the end of his bed. It's about the size of a kitten. He pats it on the head, he wags his tail and smiles. Billy's all excited. He goes down to tell his mom about the dragon. She says, "Billy, there's no such thing as a dragon." Billy thinks, well, if it doesn't exist, then there's no reason to pay attention to it. The dragon ends up growing. Now it's the size of a dog. Billy continues to ignore the dragon, and it keeps getting bigger. It fills up the living room. Billy exclaims, "I didn't know the dragons could grow so fast." Again, his mom states, "Billy, there's no such thing as a dragon." The dragon continues to grow. It gets so big it fills the house, gets up, runs away, and it takes the house with him. Billy's dad comes home from lunch to find the house gone. He finds it down the street and asks, "Well, how did this happen?" "It's the dragon," said Billy. His mom stated, "There's no such thing," but he interrupts. "There is a dragon." He patted it on the head. The dragon smiled, wagged its tail, and as quickly as it grew, it shrunk back to the size of a kitten. Billy's mom exclaimed, "I don't mind dragons this size, but why did it grow so big?" "I'm not sure," said Billy, "but I think it just wanted to be noticed." I just love that book. I shared it with my middle school age children, and there's a lot of knowledge packed into that short little children's book. We all have dragons in our lives, and we can choose to acknowledge them or ignore them. Everyone can deal with a kitten-sized dragon, but one the size of a house is something completely different. There is a dragon surrounding law enforcement. As city, state, and township budgets shrink and police officer positions are eliminated, there's less cops to do the same amount of work. The department still functions, the extra work gets spread around, arrests are made, bad guys go to jail, and it seems like life is normal. Everyone ignores it, and the dragon gets a little bigger. Retirement and healthcare benefits are removed, pensions disappear. Young people look at their options and think, maybe this stressful job isn't worth it if I'm not going to be taken care of on the back end. But 911 calls are still answered because the cops on the streets are doing their job every day. But people ignore the dragon. This goes for our allies as well: prosecutors, probation officers, parole, child protective services workers. You might think it's a different situation, but it's one and the same. Prosecutors work just as hard as we do, sometimes harder, and their pay and benefits are affected the same. We can make 100 arrests a day, but without an adequately staffed prosecutor's office, who's going to charge the crimes? Who's going to bring the criminals to the court? Probation, parole, and CPS workers, caseloads increase. Sure, they can function and keep the cogs moving, but can they really give all the extra clients the attention they deserve when more is piled on? News agencies and social media report on every bad cop and the dumb things that they do. Now granted, America has a right to know about the bad apples in a bunch. Nothing upsets me more than a rotten apple making me look bad. But you can't assume that evil is in the heart of every officer that hurts or kills someone. Newsflash, we're human beings too. We make mistakes, we get scared. Sometimes a fraction of a second is all we get to make a decision. But the stories don't focus on that. Police officer does ... That headline gets clicks, the video gets shared, the posts get liked. If my very useful minor in sociology has taught me anything, it's that we all need to put ourselves in the other people's shoes and see it from their perspective. Every day we show up to work knowing full well that we might not make it home to our families, that our names could be etched on that wall, but we still show up. So maybe we can cut police officers just a little bit of slack. After a decade of this, that dragon is now not the size of a kitten. It's the size of Bay City, Saginaw, Detroit, Chicago. Now the dragon runs away, but it doesn't take your house or department with it. It takes your city. There's another dragon out there right now that it's running away with more officers every day, and that dragon is suicide. Police officers are taking their own lives at an alarming rate. This profession is always near the top of the list for the highest rates of suicide every year. That dragon stole 963 police officers from 2017 until today. In the last many years, more officers take their own lives than lose them to violence on the job. Post-traumatic stress disorder and vicarious trauma are real, and many of us are suffering. But it's getting better. Organizations like Blue Help and Concerns on Police Survivors are addressing the issue. They both provide assistance and support for families of the victims of suicide. And I know this is a lot of doom and gloom to talk about on this lovely windy Tuesday, but I'm not going to stand by and ignore the dragons that are around me. I'm going to look them in the eye, pat them on the head, and get them down to size. And that's why we're here today. We are honoring the fallen heroes who gave their lives for this calling. In America, we do a great job of remembering our brothers and sisters whose watch ended earlier than it should. We all remember who they are, who they were. We say their names. We place their roses at the bottom of this monument. They are the reason Police Week exists. They are gone, but never be forgotten. We know this is a dangerous job, but there's still hundreds of thousands of us, men and women out there answering the call every day. So it's homework time. You all need to stop ignoring the dragons that are hanging around. Citizens, talk to your local politicians and let them know they need to focus on initiatives that will get quality candidates to fill these positions. All the P's: police, probation, parole, prosecutor, protective services workers. We need to replace the positions that have been eliminated so we can provide the level of service that they deserve. None of us are looking to drive Maseratis, but we need to make sure that our heroes are taken care of when we turn our badges in. Officers, stop ignoring the dragons around you. We are all trained observers. We notice everything, all the little things, the body language, the word choices, the tone of voice. You know when something's not right out in the field. You can tell when Joe Bad Guy's going to take off running on you just by looking him in the eye. You also know when something's not right with your shift mate or your coworker. Don't ignore that dragon. Talk about it. Talk to someone, anybody. And no, telling war stories over beers doesn't count. Cops hate the F word, but we have to talk about our feelings. And that dragon got huge because of the stigma around people that seek mental health assistance. But don't let that dragon carry you away. I'm not ashamed to say that I went and got help when I needed it, and I talk to somebody once a month, and I'll recommend it to anybody that's out there. No one thinks twice about fixing a broken arm. It's part of your body and you need it to live. You're not just going to accept the fact that it doesn't function as normal. Well, the brain's a part of your body too, and it needs maintenance like everything else. And it's okay to seek help. It doesn't mean that you're weak, it means you're human. Which brings me back to rule number 2. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Take the time to make sure you're all right. It's okay, and you're not being selfish. And this doesn't just apply to officers. This advice is for everybody. Look out for your friends, your family, your neighbors, that guy in your golf league. Don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the dragons that are around us. And of course, always remember the names that are on this wall here. They sought what was meaningful. They answered the call. Always remember that they were seeking to make the world a better place. Remember them not just this week in May, but every day. Well, thanks for sticking with me on the Ben Meyer adventure. We have now reached the end point of the flowchart, which means I get to introduce somebody else that would like to say a few words. So please welcome Director of Public Safety for the City of Bay City, Kayla Brown.
I'm glad that he introduced me to say a few words, because that's usually all I have. So I am not the orator that Detective Meyer is, but I really appreciate his message here today. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate FOP 103 for putting this on every year. It's a lot to organize, but they make it a priority, which is important. Thank you to President Verhage for inviting me to come speak here today. I don't think there's anything more important that we do than to recognize those that gave the ultimate sacrifice in our profession. But I've come to this ceremony for several years now. I've been here almost 25 years now. And I often leave wondering what's the best way that we can, as a profession, as a department, as a person, we can honor those that came before us and gave the ultimate sacrifice. I'm going to be a little bit repetitive on what Detective Meyer had to talk about, because it's something that I find very important. But one of the first things we can do is to live. We need to live to honor their profession. As he said, there were 900 and some suicides in the past since 2017. In a period from 2017 to 2021, there were 270 officers killed feloniously. So 270. That's not even half of the suicides. We prepare, we train, we work to keep that from happening to one of us. We're at the range, we do defensive tactics, we do a lot of preparation, we do driving to avoid getting killed by somebody else, but we don't do much to avoid the mental health that some of us have to deal with. There have also been 241 accidental deaths. So you add those two together, that still doesn't equal the suicides. So it's something that's kind of the elephant in the room. And as Detective Meyer hinted at, we have to get the stigma away and let people know that it's okay to not be okay. That's a saying actually from the FBI that I got, and it stuck with me. We need to encourage officers to get help, and from my standpoint, we need to require help when they go to a traumatic scene or something happens. I had just the other day, one of our lieutenants actually was talking about a training he went to, where the guy gave the analogy of, you know, everybody starts their career with a backpack on, and every day you go to a different call, or maybe it's every week or something, you know, it takes a little bit of a toll on you. And they put that in their backpack. Well, by the time you got 20 years in, that backpack gets pretty heavy, and you need some help, either to unload some of the material or have somebody help you carry it. So I thought that was a good way to put it, that we're not all superhuman. We do need help from our peers. I talk about all the time that the law enforcement is a family, and especially here at this department, I encourage sitting around the table talking to each other. And no matter how many people you talk to, cops want to talk to other cops. I'm sorry if that offends anybody or whatever, but it's just something, you know what they've gone through, and they know what I've gone through, and we can laugh about things that you shouldn't laugh about, but it's just a way that we deal with it. So if your spouse or your significant other, your family members don't want to talk to you about work, you know, just be there to listen when they do. I encourage them sitting around the table talking about it, joking about it, laughing about it, because that's the way we deal with it. I've had a few, you know, instances throughout my career. I can remember one elderly woman that got stabbed to death, and I can still see her face. In my brain every day. I have family to share with. I have my faith in God. I have my shared experiences with those around me, and I still struggle. We owe it to the fallen to live. It's the most important thing we can take away from today. Well, that took a turn I wasn't expecting. The other thing I wanted to talk about is just defending the profession as a whole. Turn off the TV, talk to an officer. On there, you know, as Detective Meyer said, there's headlines every day about what we did wrong, what this officer did, what that officer did, and I'm frankly, I don't like it. I'm sick of it. I don't like hearing it. I don't like talking about it. What I see are a bunch of good human beings. That's who I work with. There have been so many instances. This is beyond, everybody does police work well. We have some of the best investigators here, but everybody does it. Like, they can investigate a crime, they can solve a crime like nobody's business. Ben Meyer's a good example. Like, he amazes me sometimes, some of the things he figures out, just the way he thinks. It's beyond my comprehension. I'm never as good as he was, or is, but everybody does that. There's a saying from a author, definitely wasn't speaking about police when she said it. Her name's Mary Roach, but she said, heroism doesn't always happen in a burst of glory. Sometimes small triumphs and large hearts change the course of history. I can give you countless stories of good things that officers just at this department have done. They've paid for hotels for people that didn't have a place to stay in the cold. They bought meals for people that didn't have food to eat. They bought bikes for people. Just shoot, in the month of April, last month, we had a 8-year-old that was beat up by a couple teenagers, had his bike stolen. We never recovered the bike, but we found the people that beat him up. All over social media, like everywhere, everybody commenting on what should happen, but the officers made sure that kid got a new bike. To me, that's my takeaway. This isn't a unique department. Every department has officers like this. We take care of the community in ways that nobody will ever see. And that's what I'm most proud of. And that's how we should remember the fallen, is by taking care of the people in this community and living life the way it should be lived. Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to read the roll call of all the Bay County law enforcement officers that lost their lives in the line of duty. Bay City Police Officer Frank Kowalkowski. End of watch, December 18th, 1923. Michigan State Police, Trooper Delos A. Williams. End of watch, June 30th, 1929. Michigan State Police, Trooper Ralph Royer. End of watch, March 16th, 1943. Bay County Sheriff's Department, Deputy Philip Kramer. End of watch, September 28, 1974. Bay City Police, Officer Terry J. Jablonski. End of watch, April 26th, 1991. Bay City Police, Officer Raymond P. Rexer. End of watch, April 27th, 1991. Michigan State Police, Trooper Jeffrey Werda. End of watch, April 6th, 2011. We will now place a dozen roses next to the monument in memory of all law enforcement officers who gave their lives in the line of duty, including the 154 officers who were killed in 2022 and the 42 officers killed to date in 2023.
Detail! Attention! Precinct arms! Order arms! Parade rest!
This concludes our ceremony. I'd like to thank each one of you for coming out here today and remembering the names on that wall. Like I said, don't just remember them today, but every day. Thanks for coming out.